Hello and welcome to a very special program. It's been 11 years of the Modi government in power, 11 years in which we've seen several transformative steps, not least of all when it comes to science and technology and the Indian space program. The Indian space program, something the Prime Minister personally oversees, is a source of great inspiration. It's been an area of incredible achievement for Indians in the space program. It's been an inspiration for so many outside that space program. There is so much to look forward to. This is what ISRO and the Indian space program is all about.
3, 2, 1, 0.
All rocket launches are glorious as they propel a nation to new heights. ISRO has made India proud. A big dream was born from the ramparts of the Red Fort.
मां भारत का कोई संतान, चाहे बेटा हो या बेटी, कोई भी हो सकता है, वे अंतरिक्ष में जाएंगे, हाथ में तिरंगा झंडा लेकर के जाएंगे.
3, 2, 1.
Now the dream could be fulfilled as a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will send India's astronaut Group Captain Subhanshu Shukla on India's maiden visit to the International Space Station.
As I prepare to spend 14 days aboard the ISS, I carry with me not just instruments and equipment, but the hopes and dreams of a billion hearts.
This cosmic leap is special for India. NDTV interacted with astronaut Shukla. Group Captain Subhanshu Shukla, this is your first sortie into space. How confident are you of pulling it off? And also, how confident are you about having a happy landing or a happy splashdown? Thanks a lot.
Namaskar, Baglaji. Thank you for your question. You're always humorous, and that lights us up here back in Florida. Yes, this is my first sortie to space, and the past 1 year we have been training rigorously for this mission itself. I feel very confident, not just in my ability, but in the ability of this team who is sitting here to execute this mission successfully. So yes, to your question, I am extremely confident that we will be successful in this mission. And yes, there was a time when happy landing was appropriate for whenever I landed the aircraft, but I have switched over to happy splashdowns now. So I would, willingly accept that.
India has also opened up its space ecosystem for startups.
Now it has been opened up to the private sector and the results have been miraculous. Our space economy was just dismissal. Today it is somewhere about 8 to 9 billion US dollars. But the pace is so fast that our projections point out that in the next 8 to 10 years, we could go up 5 times to maybe 45 billion US dollars, which means that in the future growth of India, now as we have reached number 4, rank 4 from number 5, so go up. We would need to explore the sectors which remained hitherto unexplored, underexplored. And space is going to be a very important component.
In the last 10 years, ISRO has seen a quantum jump. With 58 rocket launches, 60 satellites have been launched, and 398 foreign satellites have been orbited. And the budgets have also increased to reach for the stars. It all started with Chandrayaan 1. This is a scale model of Chandrayaan. Now India wants to go all the way to Moon, Mars and Venus. The culmination would be when Indian is sent on an Indian rocket from Indian soil on an Indian countdown to space, which will be the Gaganyaan program. Subsequently, India also wants to make a Bharatiya Antariksh Station and land an Indian on the moon by 2040 as envisioned by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. No dream is too big for India's space ecosystem. With Vishnu Som in New Delhi, Pallav Bagla for NDTV.
Well, not only does he have a scientific bent of mind on the basis of being a doctor, Dr. Jitendra Singh is also extremely passionate about the areas that he works, the ministries that he covers. He's minister, of course, in the Prime Minister's office, and he also looks very closely at the space, the Department of Space, which means that he's got a direct line of sight as far as ISRO is concerned. ISRO is such an inspiration. You'll be speaking to so many of their scientists.
Thank you, Vishnu. At the outset, I must thank you, and I must also confess that it's been a long association, I think over 2 decades with you. It's always a very refreshing experience sitting with you.
No, wonderful. And so, sir, and likewise, sir, it's just great talking to somebody who likes science. And, it's great to sometimes move away from politics and talk about the sciences. Sir, we have a major launch, of course, an Indian astronaut on the International Space Station. Why is this critical for our country and our aspirations?
I think if you ask me to describe it briefly in a single 1 or 2 sentences, I would say that the difference now is that in this mission, our astronaut Shubhashu Shukla is going there as an equal partner, which was not so till a few years ago. Though we had the first Indian going up into the space in 1984, Rakesh Sharma, as you know, as a part of the Soviet mission. But India's space program was still in infancy. We were not in a position to indulge in much of experimentation. And it was more of the Indo-Soviet bonhomie that mission reflected across the world. But this time it's not so. During Prime Minister Modi's DC visit, when he was having bilaterals with President Biden and the other meetings over there, the suggestion came from the other side that they could have an Indian astronaut as well. So now we have a crew of 4. The commandant is, of course, a US astronaut. The third one is Poland, fourth is Hungary, and the second one, the main pilot, is going to be Shubhashu Shukla. And why I am saying that he's going to be there as an equal partner, because he's going to do much of experiments which may not be conducted by his other counterparts. Like, for example, specifically, now we have, taking up a cue from Prime Minister Modi himself, whole of science and whole of government, and I've started even, I hold joint meetings of all the science ministerial departments, which was not happening earlier. We have formally engaged ISRO with an MOU, official MOU with the Department of Biotechnology. And they are now providing kits. The kits have already moved on to Houston. So they have provided kits for astronaut Shubhashu Shukla to perform experiments related to life sciences, to the possibility of food products being created in the microgravity in the space. Also the physiological responses of the human body, maybe to begin with in the animal models. They are carrying water bears there to see how the body functions in the microgravity. The effects on the muscle dysfunction, which tends to happen when one spends a longer while in the space. Also the cognitive effects on your faculties when you're there for a long while, especially when you are constantly glued on to the computer screen. So all these aspects which were not earlier actually looked into are now being looked at. They become important also because our astronauts, be they Indian astronauts, the other astronauts, are now spending longer and longer while in the space. And sometimes their stay gets extended as well. And now that we have the International Space Station, and one day we also hope to have India's own space station called Bharat Space Station, which we have scheduled for possibly.
It's going to be called Bharat.
Absolutely. It will be called Bharat Space Station. And as per the schedule as of now, we plan to have one by 2035.
Right.
So considering all these things, it will be important. And of course, he's also going to do experiments about some seedlings growing, the microalgae growing, the protein products being generated in this space. So I think a whole lot of new dimensions are going to be very futuristic.
Do we call them Gaganyatris, our astronauts? Vyomnauts was something which was doing the rounds. Have you figured out the lingo?
No,
it's high time.
To tell you honestly, Gaganyatri is not an official name.
Right.
It
has a ring to it.
Yeah,
though.
some of the media friends, out of their
Yes, that's
fancy,
true.
they've done it. Of course, in good faith, I can't grudge them. Officially, we don't call it Gaganyatri. Yes, but Vayomitra is the official name of the female robo
Yes.
who would be part of the last and final rehearsal, which you could say like a dress rehearsal before the 26th January parade.
Yeah.
So she will be a robo, and it's been consciously decided to have a female robo. She would be known as Vayomitra.
So a male astronaut would be called Vyomitra.
Female astronaut.
A female
She will
astronaut,
be-
and ultimately for a male astronaut, would you have a different name?
No, I have not thought about that. But as of now, just before we launch the Gaganyaan, now because we have 2-3 modules.
Yeah.
We have the crew module, we have the experiment module, we have the return module.
Yeah.
Because getting them back safe in the water is as important as sending them up.
100%.
So when we are absolutely confident, then we'll put in a last final rehearsal where we would actually try to simulate a human being.
Right.
But it will not be a live human being, it will be a robo human
Yes.
being, and that will be a female
Yes,
robo.
yes.
She will be known as Vayomitra.
Yeah. Where does Gaganyaan stand? Because there are lots of basic technologies which also have to be mastered. Crew habitation is perhaps the biggest challenge. We had the opportunity of engaging with the Russians and others, but the prices were significant. We've decided to do this at home, obviously with technological assistance from outside as well. Where do we stand as far as Gaganyaan is concerned?
No, as far as Gaganyaan is concerned, see, because this is a new area and a new experience for all of us. In fact, no longer are we in a position where we pick up cues from NASA and other agencies, though we started our journey much after them. Today we are in a position where they pick up the cues from us.
Yeah.
So all these ventures do not have past precedences or past models. So sometimes the delays happen for imponderable reasons. Like for example, in this case, some natural reasons also came across. When our astronauts were undergoing a training at the Gregory Institute in Moscow, suddenly COVID happened.
Yeah.
So they had to be called back, all the 4 of them, Group Captain Nair, Group Captain Angad, Group Captain Krishna, and Wing Commander Shukla, who is now a Group Captain as well, as going to be there in the International Space Station Axiom mission. So that got suspended indefinitely. Then again it was restarted because there are 2 modules to the 2 components, the training, one over there, one over here. Then they came back, then they were lodged in a separate place so that they don't suffer much of a distraction. Then the other missions came in and some of the missions got delayed. One of them was Nisar, which was not purely Indian, it's a joint Indian-American mission, but somehow it got delayed. And then we also, meanwhile, wanted to go ahead with the SpaceX. As you rightly mentioned, a lot of technology experiences would go in the success of Gaganyaan. So docking and undocking is a very important component.
Yes.
And therefore it got slightly delayed. Otherwise, initially, very ambitiously, we had planned it for the 75th year of independence. But that didn't happen with the COVID and all the other things happened. And now, hopefully, by the next year end, we will have the final last test flight, that Vayomitra, and hopefully by the beginning of 2027, we'll have Gaganyaan.
But in fact, Gaganyaan is the end of a process that started more than 10 years back. It's certainly not the end. I mean, there'll be a lot more.
Absolutely.
But, I was just doing the research, and Mangalyaan caught the imagination of so many, not least of all because of frugal engineering. The fact that you could have an Indian orbiter of Mars complete its mission using extreme physics and mathematics to actually go there, because we didn't have the rocketry to do it, at a cost less than a mainstream Hollywood film, it shows our mindset, but also technological prowess. Wasn't that a great moment of pride
you
for
said
us?
quite a few things which often do not get noticed. Of course, Mangalyaan, I think one of the distinctions was that it was successfully the very first attempt. The second part of it is that our missions are generally quite cost effective, and that is accomplished by devising our own strategies. Like for example, Chandrayaan was hardly a cost, it was just about, and that's because we would not just shoot out the rocket like a bullet train. it will go in circles. So when it takes off from the surface Earth, it takes small circles, goes out of and makes the best use of the gravity. It's like,
And then
it's
slingshots.
like the Indian jugaad, in your and my younger days when you got a second-hand car purchase somehow, you would always try to save on the fuel. So you would put it on the neutral whenever the slope happened. So it's just like that. So they make you the gravity, and when they are out of the gravity, then they just shoot into the next gravity zone of moon. So that's why the time is longer, but the cost is much lesser. Now, can you imagine Gaganyaan, just 10,000 crore, hardly an amount.
It's just a fraction of what the others have
Yes,
spent.
absolutely. A fraction of many other missions as well.
At some stage, India will, or we will run into a situation where costs will become much more expensive than what we are spending right now. We focus on frugality, which is wonderful, and that should always be a focus. But to do the deep space missions, manned or unmanned, will require India investing billions of dollars. Are we ready to do that?
I agree with you, and that's why when I first time came into this department, the then chairman, Dr. Radhakrishnan, in the middle of night said, Doc, I'll take you to, he also happened to be a friend, take you to a site where even my scientists are prohibited. So he took me to the launching site. It was past midnight. And he said, nobody can come here, not even our faculty. So I told him, I said, Radha, I try to learn one new thing each day. So what I learned today is that to reach here, one should be either as eminent a scientist as you are, or somehow manage to, get an assignment in the Department of Space. But then I said, why this? And I'm glad the Prime Minister was so open to it. In fact, the people of India, even the scientific fraternity, has reconciled to the fact that these two departments, space and nuclear energy, have to function behind a wheel of secrecy. And we were depriving ourselves of resources. Just look back at the archive, the photographs of Vikram Sarabhai carrying some of his, saman on the carriage of the carrier of the bicycle. So to overcome that, now it has been opened up to the private sector. And the results have been miraculous, because just been 3-4 years since we opened up to the private sector, both domestically, internationally. FDI has been allowed to the maximum extent. And statistically, I think the outcomes are evident from the fact that just about 4 years back, we had only one digit startup, 1, 2, 3 or so. Today we have more than 300, some of them world class, and some of them have gone to the next level to become very, lucrative entrepreneurs. Secondly, our space economy was just dismissal. Today it is somewhere about $8 to $9 billion, but the pace is so fast that our projections point out that in the next 8 to 10 years, we could go up 5 times to maybe $45 billion, which means that in the future growth of India, now as we have reached number 4, rank 4 from number 5, so go up, we would need to explore the sectors which remained hitherto unexplored, underexplored. And space is going to be a very important component. Also, we have also started earning from the launching of the foreign satellites. Like, for example, and that too has happened in the last, for example, we have about 434 foreign satellites launched so far since the inception of ISRO, out of which as many as about 398 or so were launched only in the last 10 years. That's more than 10%. If you go figure-wise, we have earned, I think, as much as about 292 or so million euros from launching of the European satellites, and about $172 million. So our economy from different quarters related to space is also on the, and then the saving also in the infrastructure, Gati Shakti. So in the construction work, the infrastructure work, the space technology has reduced lot much of expenditure. So economy, of course, as you know better than me, happens both ways, by saving and also by increasing the value. So similarly, our smart cities, our telemedicine, agriculture. So space economy is going to, space sector is going to be hugely contributing as India moves up from rank 4.
I think one of the most welcome things which I saw over the last decade is the willingness to accept failures. You can't succeed in this area unless there are failures. So whether it was some of the first Chandrayaan missions, and then we had a grand success after that, or occasional rockets not working out, how do you share that message with ISRO? And how does the PM say that look, we know that there will be mistakes?
To take up the last point, of course, PM is very understanding, because he is already very well prepared. He keeps updating himself, and sometimes each time you go to him with a presentation, I'm sure you will come back with 1 or 2 cues to add to your presentation. It's never that you have gone fully prepared and you're going to now brief him. He would already be ready to give you 1 or 2 extra cues. So having said that, but now as far as failure is concerned, which of course we don't always call a failure, maybe lack of success, in the present science and the cutting edge technology projects, risk is almost an institutionalized acceptance.
Yeah.
But even from that point of view, India's unsuccessful missions, even in space, have been much, much lesser.
Yes.
Whether it was Chandrayaan, whether it was Aditya, was Mangalyaan.
Yeah.
I mean, even American missions have been successful in the second and third attempt. And their third attempts are much, much more than us. We've been hardly any. And the second part of it is that we have also now accepted, and thanks again to the political leadership, because it would not have been possible without the political will, thanks to the will of the political dispensation headed by the Prime Minister. Now we have also accepted that we take fancy in saying that we will be Vishnu Guru, we will be Viksit, and we will be reaching top, but we never actually strategize for that.
Yeah.
Now we are actually strategized to become Vishnu Guru.
Right.
Vishnu Bandhu also. Right. Like in Shukla is going to be Vishnu Bandhu to all the other counterparts. Now we have started following global strategies.
Yeah.
This opening up to the private sector. Because, see, we always compared ISRO with NASA without realizing that NASA did not depend wholly on government. So if we have to succeed globally, we have to live up to global benchmarks, we have to follow global strategies, and we have to meet the global parameters. And that for once has started happening now. And there is now a whole ecosystem which has resulted in our startup ranking going up to number 3 in the world. We have very recently also come out with the National Research Foundation, which has been given the Indian ethos named Anusandhan.
Yeah.
So which is also in line with the countries which had met success earlier than us, like US.
Yes.
So we are now following the same pattern, same strategy. So we are among 4 or 5 countries. We have a quantum mission.
Yeah.
We are already into geospatial.
Yeah.
So we are now at par.
Right.
So I think that's a very big, major stride.
But let me ask
forward.
you this. India believes in the peaceful use of space. We've signed up on the Artemis Accords, which is a deep collaboration, let's say, with NASA. But philosophically also, since this technology is expanding, we're talking about deep space missions as well. We want the peaceful use of space. How is that central to India's thinking?
No, I think you're right. And I think they are all integrated. Even our deep ocean mission, about which the announcement was made not once but twice in the Prime Minister's address in the Independence Day 2022 and 23, is also one of the first of its kind initiatives, which would also, to a great extent, not only be dependent only on oceanography, but also on space technology.
Yeah.
And this is again a sector, as I said, if we have to move on, we have to explore these sectors. This is one sector which was never looked up. We never even realized how much of wealth was there. We have about 11,000 kilometer long coastal area, one of the longest in the world, about 12, 13 states, beginning from Bengal, Odisha up to Maharashtra, Gujarat. But we never ventured into that. There's a whole lot of wealth, minerals, metals, fisheries. For the first time we have started. So if we explore that, I think that will give a quantum leap to India's economy. And there again, the space technology is also integrating with the ocean science to accomplish those outcomes.
You know what I find really inspiring about ISRO is that there are excellent rocket scientists and engineers and scientists, from across the board, regional engineering colleges. Some of their leaders had a very basic background. They came from villages. The number of women who are top engineers now across the field in the space sector, it's only growing. Leadership is entirely democratic. It is based on success and proficiency. And there is this deep culture of wanting to get ahead, which is ingrained in a government institution. Now let's face it, lots of government institutions in the past didn't have that culture. Could you tell us about the culture of ISRO?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, because that's something which is not talked about, and I always wish that. I think ISRO has created a different kind of role model of culture, which is worth emulating.
Yeah.
As you said, the democratization of opportunity for the search, not only women participation. We have women heads
Yeah.
in some of the very important missions, like Aditya was headed by Nazma
Yeah.
Nizar, again a lady, and Chandrayaan 3, the second head was Kalpana.
Yeah.
So no longer is women participation, it's a woman leadership. They are leading the men folk.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
A. B. The ISRO scientists may be retiring as far as their file is concerned.
Yeah, but they never seem
But
to
they
go.
never retire. And that's a beautiful culture. You find all the ex-chairman, former chairman, retired chairman still working there, either in the Bangalore ISRO headquarters or in Sriharikota, putting all their energy and expertise into work, and also actively associating with many of the projects.
The fact that we had a Vyomitra, or we will have a Vyomitra robo in a humanoid form, it just seems to me to ask you the obvious question. There will be women astronauts, right, in the future?
Of course, of course.
Be very much a part of the planning of Indian space missions going forward.
Of course. We, even among these boys and the students, boys and girls who are now asking or requesting for these summer trainings,
Yeah.
we have many of them girls.
Yeah.
So equal number, and they feel quite encouraged that look, we can also do it when they see likes of Kalpana and
Sunita Williams and
Nazira.
the-
Yeah, even back home.
Right.
Sunita Williams, of course, sometimes they thought since she's gone abroad, she had
Yeah.
made it.
Yeah.
But now that also is a change now.
Right.
Though it's not part of that, I'll just like to tell you, we are today number 6 in our patent filing.
Yes.
We have more than 66,000 patents or so. But between the lines, what is important is that more than 55% of patents are Indian residents, which means they never went outside India. Born here, groomed here, trained here, researched here. Earlier on, the common jargon was, वो साहब हरगोविंद खुराना बाहर जाएगा तो होगा, सुनीता विलियम बाहर जाएगी तो कुछ होगा, Kalpana Chawla. It's no longer so.
Right.
So now the infrastructure is available, the opportunity is available, and the present dispensation in the government is very open to allow them the liberty of aligning themselves with the private sector, with the other non-government entities as well.
Yeah. So, sir, since I do have you, I can't let you go without asking you a few questions of Ops Sindoor. The whole world wants to know about it. And my question is specific. When the military actions were happening, when India went in with our strikes against terrorist training camps, when there was a retaliation from the Pakistanis a few days later or shortly thereafter, how tense was the Prime Minister? Was he monitoring it constantly? Could you give us a sense of what was happening around him as we did some of our most major military actions since 1971?
No, I think Honorable Prime Minister himself, Prime Minister Modi, is a very focused worker. So, leave aside the war times, even in the peace times, whenever he takes up a task at hand, like for example in COVID, he was doing daily monitoring. That mission Suraksha was launched for COVID vaccine, and we could come out with the first ever DNA vaccine in the world. It startled the entire world because India was never taken seriously for its healthcare capabilities, and least of all the preventive healthcare. So we became leaders in preventive healthcare, and that's because the Prime Minister put all his might into that, all his focus. So like Gati Shakti, then I think he's the first time Pragati, the new experiment. Every month he's monitoring projects across the country in all the states, directly talking to the chief secretary. So that way he is otherwise by temperament, by aptitude, very focused.
Wonderful speaking to you. We've kept you for a long time. The story of Indian science is fascinating and it's only growing. And also, of course, wonderful to hear about what you saw and heard during those critical days of Ops Sindoor, which of course has not ended, but perhaps the military actions have. The last 10 years plus have been a real story as far as Indian science is concerned. ISRO, the Indian Space Research Organization, is pioneering in several areas. The engineering, the profound science, the application of new technologies is something which continues to evolve over a period of time. There is, of course, a great deal of interest as far as Indian astronauts are concerned, not just the present mission, but ultimately Gaganyaan, and of course Bharat, which is going to be the name of the Indian space station. So there's a lot of excitement coming up in this field.